What's up, everybody? PJ Braun here, president of Blackstone Labs with Courtney Eichorn, aka All-American Barbie, and of course, Gennid Strobo. And this is a very special video because this is the, I suppose, 2.0 version video of the bikini posing video that I did with Coach K a few years ago that got 50,000 views and helped so many people. But because of the evolution of the sport and things that are going on, plus things that I thought that I could have did better in the first video, it was time to do a new one. And I hope that you guys enjoy this one as much as the first. I got so many compliments over the years from women that said that they actually learned how to pose themselves just from watching that video, and that is what we want to do today. So first, I'm gonna send my model out of the way for a second, thank you. And I'm gonna explain the importance of Gennid Strobo, who has this past year been my teammate as far as making the girls as good as they can possibly be. And so I really enjoy the nutritional aspect of coaching, and of course I enjoy chemistry and supplements, but I truly don't have time to pose with anybody, really get on Skype posing with anybody. Even most of my male guys, some of the ones that are local, I will when I can. But Jen, even if I did have the time, would be a better choice than me anyway, because she has, without a doubt, I think it's a safe argument, posed with more women than probably anyone that any of us have ever met. So she's seen it all. And all the little tips that she can provide and give to an athlete of mine, it is a tremendous benefit. So when we started doing this together, I felt so much confidence knowing like I have somebody that has an even better eye than me to make these girls as perfect as they can possibly be. And so maybe the title of this video would be Perfect Presentation for Bikini. And Jen is gonna walk you guys through the differences between NPC, IFBB. She also used to expedite shows, so she knows exactly where to stand, how the walk's gonna be, timing of everything. You couldn't learn from a better person. Am I hyping you up enough, by the way? It's pretty good, right?
Keep going.
She's beautiful, she's a mom, she runs fast, jumps high, she can fly, shoots lasers out of her eyes. Okay, so I am going to be off camera, but I will be coming in just like in the other videos, and I'm gonna be giving the judge's perspective. So I'm basically gonna be saying the things that we're looking at wrong versus right, because everybody likes to show, you know, what they're good at, but you gotta make sure that you're addressing weaknesses, and I'll talk a little bit about training and nutrition on that. But without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Jen, who's gonna break it all down for you guys. You're gonna learn everything today, so.
Hopefully I don't miss anything, but I know that PJ will help me out on that.
I will.
My goal today is to teach you, if you've never been on stage before, starting with the NPC, and show you what's gonna happen through the NPC shows, and then show you the difference between an IFBB and an NPC show as well. First of all though, I recommend if you're gonna compete at the NPC and you've never competed before, the first thing you need to do on your checklist is to get out to your local NPC show. One, you're supporting your competitors, but you just get a good visual and a feel for what's happening at the show, so this doesn't all seem so foreign when you watch it again. What I would like to start with first is, he was talking about expediting. There's no stress when you get to a show and you're about to compete. There's no worries about what's gonna happen on that stage. There is an expediter at every little point that they bring you to. Once they call your class, once they line you up and they call your number, you'll get a number issued to you. And there's no question once you get onto that stage where you're gonna go when you go out by yourself, when you go out in a group. There are taped markings and lines, squares, little dots everywhere on the stage, and the expediter is gonna lead you to each specific spot that you have to go to, so you have no stress there. Your stress and what you need to work on is perfecting your posing from the very beginning of the show. And actually your posing should be practiced maybe 10 to 12 weeks out. Just start going through it every day. Wearing those heels, becoming comfortable in your heels, becoming comfortable in these heels that are on carpet, wear them on carpet, wear it on tile, wear it on wood, concrete, wherever, because you need to be comfortable walking on different surfaces, as you don't know what type of surface you're going to show up at the show and have. But let's get started with the show stuff. All right, so where we're gonna start is from the moment you hit the stage. And let's look over here where Courtney's standing, because whenever you can see the judges where you're standing off to the side, the judges can see you, which means you are already on that stage, you're already being judged, and you already need to sell why they should choose you as the winner. Might as well. When you're standing over here, you're gonna be standing in a very beautiful pose, your perfect little side pose. You're gonna wanna be showing your upper body towards the judges, smiling at the judges, and you wanna show your glutes as a bikini competitor, so you wanna have everything twisted. You're also gonna wanna make sure that they can see your number, which will be positioned right here. Now, everyone has a different front pose, and this year they've started letting you wear your number wherever you choose on your bikini bottom. So depending on where your number's placed is how you'll face the judges from the very, very beginning. And once you're off to the side, in NPC shows right now, they're bringing you out in what they call the comparison lineups first, which is where they just bring out part of your class. They line you up on the stage, which we're gonna go through, and they have you face the front and turn and face the back. So in the very beginning, that's what you're gonna do first. You don't need to worry about an individual posing routine just yet. That will come shortly, and you don't want to worry about anything else except for going out there and showing, compared to the other girls, why you are the best one out there. So let's pretend that I am the expediter that I was talking about earlier. There's always an expediter right here. They're gonna say how much of your group, depending on how many girls are in your class for that show, is gonna come right on out, and you're just gonna follow the expediter out, and they're gonna show you exactly where to stand. And so the expediter will say, come on out. Now remember, when you're walking out, you're already being judged, so you wanna make sure that your walk is pretty, that you've got your glutes held high, and the expediter is gonna point right to where you stand, and immediately you're gonna hit that front pose and be looking and smiling, acknowledging every single judge. And you see how she's standing right here in her front pose? She is showing that upper body, she's showing her lower body, she's got her number facing the judges, she's making sure she's not hiding her number with her hands or anything like that. And the judges, once they get everyone lined up, they're gonna just have you face the front like you're doing right here, and then they're gonna have you turn and face the back. You're gonna lean in, transition to the back, and you'll stand right here in your back pose. Now in your back pose, you're gonna leave your hair back. There's no need to show and move your hair around. You don't wanna be too fidgety in your back pose. I know a lot of girls will wanna flip their hair and do a bunch of little looks. The NPC shows, you just wanna make sure that you get right back into your back pose, because you don't wanna be the last one there. They move pretty fast, and you wanna make sure they get to see how great you look from the back. Most bikini shows, I believe, are won or lost from the back. And then they'll have you face the front, and you go right back into your front pose. All right, so I think from here we should talk about what the judges are looking for in the front and the back pose in these comparisons when they're comparing the lineups.
So the reason that I'm sitting here is at most shows, the judges are going to be looking up at you, depending on where the show is at. Some venues now, because of the COVID restrictions, you may be on an equal level, but for the most part, they're going to be looking up at you, and what they see looking up at you is completely different than if they're going to be looking at you at eye level. So you have to always remember that when you are walking across and you are looking at the judges, they are going to be down. And just like Jen said, that consistent eye contact is very, very important. So I'm a judge, and now I'm completely engaged in her because she's smiling and she looks confident, and that confidence is key to selling that you are a champion when you come out. I always say you're selling yourself from the moment that you walk out. You gotta sell it. And you don't want to try to pretend to be something that you're not. So if you are somebody that doesn't feel sexy at all, don't try to be like the fake sexy girl up there. Just have fun and show that you are proud of your physique and you're smiling and that you believe that you are the champion. So that's established first. So it's human nature now when somebody sees that to appreciate what they're looking at a little bit more. So you've got half the battle won right there. Now we go to your physique. So when I'm looking at her physique, obviously the height of a competitor is going to affect their structure quite a bit. For taller competitors, you often see either really short torsos or really long torsos. So Courtney is actually very fortunate in the sense that she's extremely well proportioned and balanced. Now, when you're looking at somebody structurally, there's going to be a couple things that either enhance or hurt your physique. The two biggest things that I always look at for all competitors is the width of the clavicles and the width of the hips. So if you've got narrow clavicles and narrow hips, you've got to work posing around that. If you've got really wide clavicles and really wide hips, well, then you're gonna have to work posing around that. Now, ideally, you would have wider clavicles and really small hips. That makes it a lot easier. You can kind of pose in all sorts of different ways with that. So structurally, she has a little bit wider on the hip side, but not too bad in her clavicles, and her shoulder structure has been built up a lot, so this actually makes her look very strong in this pose. You never, ever want to be straight anyway, even if you do have really small hips. It's okay when you're transitioning for a second, but when you're straight on, you always look the thickest here, and you want to look as small as you can here. Now, a great way to enhance that is actually standing up taller and keeping your air exhaled and your stomach really opened up, your diaphragm pulled up the way that she is here. So as a judge, I've got my 2-3 seconds to really look at her and decide if she's really good or really bad. The main things I'm looking at right away are the caps on her shoulders, and you'll find judges all the time say, you know, round your shoulders out more, or maybe they'll tell you too much shoulders if you're somebody that was training really hard for too long. I also look through here because when you're in this S-pose position, if you're in shape, there won't be like a bunch of extra skin right here. And that kind of stuff sticks out right away. And the main thing that I look at after that on the lower body is going to be the definition and the shape of the glute. And also I like to see this sartorius separation on the inner thigh in here, which when you've been doing this long enough and you see that, it just presents that this person worked hard and has good separation, is in good shape. I always say that separation is more important than how low your body fat truly is, because the more separated a muscle is, the more pleasing it looks, versus if you just have thin skin and veins everywhere. People sometimes get caught up in, oh, my veins are gone or this or that. The judges are not looking at that. They're looking at the shape and the balance of the physique. So if you have really big shoulders and really small legs, then you need to prioritize either bringing your legs up or bringing your shoulders down. I think that many women nowadays, Jen would agree, are focused on conforming to what Bikini wants by training less in certain areas. You've got to do what it takes to be competitive in the division that you compete in. So Courtney in her leg video showed that she was doing a lot of plyos because she's got plenty of muscle in her legs and she wants to make sure that she's got her body fat down and is showing the separation. So this is a great pose for her, like I said, because she's at an angle, she's not straight on, it makes her waist look smaller, she's got herself nice and tall. You can see she's got very well developed glutes, and she's lean enough where, you know, when she applies pressure, the sartorius is showing it. She's still smiling, she's got her shoulders in a position that look nice and broad, so we're working with that X frame. And when you have somebody like Jen that can tweak all these little things on you, the slightest tweaks, which Jen can talk about more with, where this arm is positioned, where this foot is positioned, can enhance all these things that much more.
There's, like he's talking about, there are a few things that we can work on or create that illusion of. First of all, in this pose that she's in, one way to create a smaller waist is to actually, instead of having your hand way out here on your hip, notice how much wider her waist looks like that? But if she brings it in a little bit to where she had, now we've removed that couple inches off of her waist and made her waist look even smaller. However, there are some girls who maybe you have smaller legs and you need to make them look bigger. There's a different pose that you can use for the front pose. Remember that? The X-ray pose. Mm-hmm. You can stand like this with all of your weight back. She has to remember because that's not the one that works for her body. But you've got to find which front pose is going to best show off that frame that he is talking about, the structure and the look, so that you do have that balanced X frame. But there's little tweaks like that. Now when you stand in this pose, as you see, she's got very good definition. You want to make sure your hand isn't hiding that really good definition, because that's a great asset that she's got. And you want to stand and make sure that you get to see that. You don't want to hide that from the judges. And PJ was saying, I'm just going to go back to what he was saying earlier, the judges are slightly below you in 90% of shows. You want to make sure when you're taking progress photos and sending them to your coach, or just looking, if you're coaching yourself, looking at how you're coming in, you want to make sure that your camera and your progress photos are taken from the judge's perspective, because that is what the judges are seeing. They're not seeing you from up high or straight on. Now what the judges are going to say from here is ladies face the back. So you want to have some sort of a transition where you kind of relax yourself, lean in, do a little bit of a side pose. You can always lean in if that's a great asset of yours. If you want to show a little more up here because you maybe feel like you look a little small or you're lacking in there, there's ways to enhance and tighten up that upper body. And then you're going to go right into your back pose. A couple of my points on the back pose before I bring PJ back in is you want to make sure that you've got your glutes nice and tight. So you want to have your hips cocked back and lifted. You want to make sure you've got a nice arch here, and you want to be standing up straight. A lot of people, and I see a lot of mistakes on stage where they lean way too far forward, lean forward. That's not what the judges want to see. One, it makes this lower part of your body seem twice as big as your upper body, so it throws off that balance that they're looking for. But it just looks like you're trying too hard to show conditioning and tightness here when you need to come to the show already prepared with that condition and tightness. So stand back up, you'll see this arch over on the side. You'll see that. It's nice and arched up, but she's still standing upright. Now this is your time as a competitor. Relax that smile that you've been doing for a long time at the judges. You can relax your midsection. Don't focus so much on that as you are what the judges are seeing from the back. PJ?
So we're very fortunate, well, we're fortunate anyway that All-American Barbie is here, but we're very fortunate that she's competing in a week, so it makes it really easy for me to point out the muscles and whatnot that the judges are going to be looking at. So shows are won and lost from the back. So when we look at this back pose, no matter what anyone tells you, the most important thing by far is going to be the ham glute tie-in. And there's not a spot on an anatomy chart that says ham glute tie-in, but we all know it in this industry. So it's basically where the glutes and the hamstrings meet, and it's gonna be completely different on each individual, but that area, it's usually the benchmark for who's in condition or who belongs in the top versus who's not. So if you are dieting and progressing and training along and you are not getting that, I can promise you in the IFBB, it's definitely not gonna happen, and to get to the IFBB, you need to achieve that. So when we look at Courtney, this area, so you've got her calves, of course, her hamstring inserts here into the back of her knee, all the way up into where her glutes are. This meeting spot, that is the ham glute tie-in. Now, little things that you can do in this pose to make them come out more really are based around what Jen was saying is how you stand, where you're positioning your weight. But as far as training and whatnot goes, I've said whatnot twice, by the way. I don't really usually say whatnot a lot. It must be the power tools next door throwing me off. So as far as your training goes, all competitors, you should be focused on hamstring glute development anyway, but bikini in particular, you've got to do exercises that are really making sure that you're building and focusing on this area. And I think that one of the most important ones, I've said this numerous times, is the variation of a dumbbell plie squat or a sumo style squat or a goblet squat, anything that's gonna be putting you in that deep open position where you are firing your glutes a lot. And also think it is extremely, extremely important to make sure that you're not neglecting the Romanian deadlift, the RDL, because the RDL, you feel insertion first in the stretch, whereas most other hamstring exercises, when you look at any kind of like EMG study, they fire hard here, but not necessarily the same stretch here. So your training needs to be based around working these areas. These hip thrust, glute thrust machines and exercises are gonna be working the glutes specifically. Everyone thinks I need to just squat, squat, squat to make my booty grow, and that is not necessarily true because there are so many other muscles involved in the squat. You need to isolate and target these areas. So if you wanna go in and win a show, if it seems like I'm putting a lot of time here, it's not just because I wanna have my head in this area, it's because this is the game changer that makes you win shows. I've walked into shows and seen a girl look absolutely shredded and ripped in the front and been like, whoa, and then she turns around, I'm like, nope, it's not gonna be her, all because of this area. Now, dieting, cardio, nutrition all comes into play quite a bit with this as well. And a little trick that I do with a lot of, what I used to do with a lot of my newer girls, that Jen may have had to do this before with some girls, is I find that some girls don't even know how to tense and flex this area. and it's before we even get into her upper body, is one thing that I'll have women do is send me a video of yourself doing a dumbbell plie squat or a Romanian deadlift, because you can see when they do those exercises where the muscles actually are, how developed they are. Then you have something to go with from there. So that's something at home that you can do if you're learning yourself, is just record yourself doing that. Now moving up to her upper body, it goes without saying that the hair is not moved in this back pose. If you've got really, really short hair, we always suggest getting some extensions put in to hide the musculature of your back. Now, this does not mean you don't train your back, because your back comes into play into a lot of the other poses. Plus, we're working on this taper down here being the smallest you possibly can here. Now, with all the hair here, if you are in shape the right way, this is gonna look smaller anyway. But you've got to make sure that you're getting proper delt training. Posterior and medial delt is very, very important, as we said in the beginning, because this roundness up here enhances to this X-frame. So now when I walk back out to my judge's perspective, and I'm sitting here looking up at her, I can say to myself, wow, she's done her work, she's got good separation, and now because she's standing upright, I can actually see that she's got a great taper as well. Common mistake, as Jen said, is to lean forward too much. Now all I'm gonna see is glutes. And it's interesting, if you come over here with the camera, see how she's standing up taller now. Start kind of slouching forward a little bit, Courtney. So as a judge, when I'm looking up, what happened now is her glutes and hams popped out more, but she lost her upper body. So that's why this precision is so important in making your aesthetics look perfect. And that's my judge's perspective from the back.
Okay, so there are a few tweaks that you can do in your back pose depending on how your muscles are inserted to create more of a glute hamstring tie-in. Some girls, depending on how the size of their legs or their inner hamstring tie-in here, are gonna need to turn their knees outward a little bit. Can you twist your knees out a little bit? Some girls are also gonna need to move their toes outward. So they just turn their toes out a little more. And then there are gonna be some girls whose legs are so overpowering from the front that the quad sweep makes them seem kind of bottom heavy. They're gonna need to turn their legs in, their knees in, and do like that. There are also some women who benefit from slightly bending their knees, but you don't wanna bend them so much to where you are bent over, where it looks like you are riding a horse or a motorcycle. You could do a slight bend and keep that arch going, and that's gonna tighten this up a little more and not look over-exaggerated to the judges. Same with your upper body. There are placements of your hands. You don't wanna have your hands so far in to where from the back it looks like you're kind of, grabbing the front of your suit. You wanna have them placed to where it helps to balance and show this taper right here, not hiding that. And then the next thing that the judges are gonna do, and ladies face the front, and you're gonna transition in and turn right back to the front and hit that front pose right away, going back into what we just talked about. So now while you're still out here in the comparison lineup, there are gonna be several other girls on either side of you, and the judges like to move girls around to compare you against each other, compare different physiques, allow judges on either end of the table to see each person equally. So what happens is they'll call your number and call another girl's number and say, please switch places. You wanna make sure, one, that you remember what your number is so that you're not doing this and looking down to see what your number is. But you also want to, when they call your number, that you want to acknowledge and step out a little bit so the other girl knows who she's switching places with. So they'll call number one, step on out, and number 3, switch places. And so you look both ways, you wanna find where you're gonna go, and you want to acknowledge that. You want to walk crisscross with the other girl in front of the comparison lineup. You wanna make sure you're walking not robotically, walk like a normal person. And you wanna, normal person being on stage. But then you wanna back into your pose. Now, did you see how she kind of walked and she kind of stepped back into her pose instead of turning backwards and doing some sort of little thing like this? No matter how lean and conditioned you are, you get skin folds, you get little wrinkles in the backside, and you kind of drop your glutes when you're turning in. You wanna make sure that you kind of slowly back into that position. That's gonna be the best look from the judge's perspective, and it's always about what they think. And this is the basics of your posing. So from the moment you walk on the stage, you've got the expeditor helping you out. They bring you out in your line. You hit your front pose, you turn, as I was saying, the judges will tell you, turn to the back, and then you turn right back around to the front. And then what the expediter is gonna do, they're gonna lead you off to the side of the stage and show you exactly where to stand. And so then they'll kind of direct you over like this, and then we're gonna walk off to the side, and there'll be a line of tape right here. Turn. And you're gonna hit right on your front pose, right where the little mark is at, and wait to be called out to do your individual routine. All right, so now after the comparisons and the expediter has brought you over to the side, and I said there's a little piece of tape here, you've got a place to stand. Courtney's standing here once again, showing that beautiful shape, the little S frame here and the X right here. She's also making sure that they can see her number. Now they'll call each person out to do your individual routine, and we're gonna run through how it is in an NPC and an IFBB show. They are very, very different. As an NPC competitor, you don't have but about 15 seconds. Now we call it your posing routine, which is your individual routine, but in a sense, it's not really a routine. You don't have time to do an entire song and dance. You've got about 15 seconds to show your best assets and your best qualities, a little personality and some confidence. And then we're also gonna run through an IFBB posing routine, which you actually have upwards of almost 2 minutes, it seems like. So Courtney's gonna come on out, and we're gonna see what that posing routine looks like for an NPC competitor. They'll call her name, she'll acknowledge herself, and she'll walk right on out to the center, which is marked by a big square tape. Notice she's walking out confidently, she's smiling at the judges. She hit her front pose. She's gonna turn. She's gonna make sure she's showing her best poses right away for the judges. And she's gonna turn back around. Acknowledge the judges once again. And then say goodbye and walk off to the opposite side of the stage. And she will take her spot again on the side where the expediter shows her to stand. All right, Courtney, now I want to show the difference in an NPC posing routine and an IFBB posing routine. As I said, you've got a whole lot more time to do, and I'm just going to let her run through this since she's about to do it on stage in a couple days. All right, Courtney, go on out. Notice how she's always smiling, acknowledging the judges. She's showing confidence from head to toe. She's showing a little bit of her personality. And she's ready to end that with just as much confidence as she started with. And then she'll also say her little goodbye. And back out to her position.
The biggest thing that I want to add here is NPC level shows, regional versus nationals. Nationals is going to move very fast, and there's going to be a lot of competitors there. Now, we'll also say that although it moves very fast, you yourself in your head at this level are going to also be moving very fast. So you have to take those two things into consideration, and you don't rush yourself, but also remember that it's going to go quick. So the best thing you can do, just like Jen said, is hit your poses perfectly with confidence, and then be ready to move on, because you aren't gonna have much time at the pro qualifying shows. Now, at some of the regional shows, they will let you pose a little bit, but still don't plan on posing the full time like an IFBB level pose. The IFBB, some of them, it seems like they pose for a couple minutes now. Yeah, they do quite a bit. In Bikini now, that's completely different. When you get to that level, kudos to you. It's a tremendous accomplishment. Just nail the actual mandatory, that we're calling them, poses. And in your head, what did you say? Thank you very much?
Yeah, in your head, what I like to think
That's
of
good.
is, thank you very much is how long you should hold each pose or transition. You hit your front pose and think to yourself, you don't need to say it out loud, thank you very much. Or you can say fun things, you know, I'm the winner, I'm so cute, but something that's kind of a 1, 2, 3 pace gives you that right amount of time in your head that you know that you need to transition to every different pose.
That's much better. I used to say for them to in their head say 1,000 and then move. So thank you very much. Flows a lot better. It's cute. It's easy to remember, and that's a perfect amount of time to hold that pose and then go through your transitions. When you stand there for too long at a regional level show, it makes you look so amateur, and it also makes it, like Jen said, easier for them to find what's wrong with you. So you want to make sure with confidence that you do move that quick. Also, you don't want to be the girl that's still posing as the other girl is already there ready to start her routine, because that makes everybody feel uncomfortable, so be wary of that as well. I mean, this was fantastic, so I don't really feel there's anything else that I have to add there. That was very well. Your walk was great. The description was good. She feels like she might have wanted to do her walk a little better. You can walk again. We'll film you walking again.
I want to walk again.
Do you want to walk again?
Yes.
We'll have her walk again. This is going to be a video just on...
We'll let her walk again, and then we're going to talk about practicing, because that is exactly what she's doing, is practicing for this upcoming show.
That was so much better. That's how you practice.
And talking about practicing, and I know PJ and I are in agreement of this, you need to be able to hold those poses that they put you in the comparison pose, in the comparison lineup. The front pose and the back pose, you need to be able to hold those poses upwards of a minute without shaking and still being able to breathe and not looking like you're holding your breath. Looking confident, making sure that you don't start to slowly let that pose fall because you're weak and you're getting a little shaky and it's hurting, because posing, when it's done properly, it's gonna not feel so great after a while, right?
Yeah, it hurts.
Your lower back should be hurting. That means you're arching the right way and you're really standing up nice and straight. Your feet should be a little achy because you're really feeling the floor and pressing through those feet. And you should feel slightly out of breath, like it's almost another workout. But all of that practicing that you put in months ahead of time is gonna pay off on stage, because it comes so easy.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a lot in this perfect bikini posing video with Courtney and Jen. I think that we touched on so many things. Jen touched on a bunch of things that we didn't discuss in the prior video, so I'm super happy about that. And if you have any questions, reach out to any of us anytime. If you like the video, tell your friends, share it, please. We just want to help you guys. And if you were competing, it's all about having fun and being the best that you can be, beating yourself. And when you are beating yourself, you're always a winner. I know that sounds a little bit cliche, but
It's true.
it is true. That's what it's all about. So thank you very much to both Jen and Courtney. I am PJ Braun, president of Blackstone Labs. Peace out, bye.